Detroit Water Department is shutting off service to people who don't pay their bills, but tonight some are calling that move a human rights violation.
They're even taking their case to the United Nations, saying that everyone has a basic right to clean water. Fox 2's Amy Lang with more.
Water is a common good, and it should stay a common good.
A common good, a human right. Maureen Taylor runs the Michigan Welfare Rights Organization, and she says she's tired of the city shutting off water to poor people who can't afford to pay their bills.
What kind of government will allow for water to be turned off for their women and children? It's just unconscionable.
Now activists from Canada and the U.S. have joined together circulating petitions on social media and appealing to the United Nations to get involved, alleging Detroit is committing human rights violations.
There is an active investigation going on based on the allegations that were made about human rights violations, as it should be.
If water is a human right, I mean, I'm fine with that. If someone can show me a way to provide the service where it's free, then we would do that. But there's a cost associated with providing the service.
That's Daryl Latimer, Deputy Director of the Detroit Water and Sewerage Department. He says most Detroit customers are paying their bills, but around 35% are not. And if they are more than 60 days past due and owe more than $150, they have 10 days to pay up or make arrangements or face shutoff.
The department is trying to be proactive because we don't want to execute shutoffs. We want customers to come in and make payment arrangements, but for some reason it seems as though it's being reported that we're doing this mass shutoff effort, and these shutoffs have always went out every month, so it's not anything that's new.
But Latimer admits, given the bankruptcy, there is a renewed push to get those bills paid. The department says in May they sent out 46,000 shutoff notices and cut off water to around 8,000 people, most of whom paid their bills right after it happened. He says an aging infrastructure and failure of people to pay mean the monthly cost of water here is close to double the national average of around $40.
You heard a report of a 9% increase in rates. Most of that is due to bad debt associated with uncollectibles. So we're trying to get that number under control so that we can control rate increases.
The Detroit Water Department is trying to get those costs under control, but if you are unable to pay your bill, they will work on a payment plan with you. We have more information on those programs on our website, myfoxdetroit.com.
Of course, hundreds of people with an opinion about this issue as well. Mary writes, so pay your bill. No one owes you free services. Nicholas says, water is a basic need. Clean water is a luxury. If you don't want to pay your bill for clean water, walk down to the river like they do in other countries. Toriano says, the earth is 70% water. I never understood the notion of paying for water when it's all around us. And Tracy says, what about the thousands of gallons being wasted in abandoned houses? Shouldn't they shut them off first?
All right, thank you, Chauncey.
The defenders learned tonight that the state will take action as Detroit makes national news for its water shutoff problems.
As the defenders first reported, thousands who owe money on their water bills are now without running water. The Michigan Department of Human Services is getting swamped with complaints from consumers and also calls from concerned citizens about the welfare of some children. Local 4 Defender Hank Winchester is live tonight. And Hank, what is DHS saying?
And Karen, they're going to roll all of this information out officially tomorrow, but tonight telling us they've received, as you mentioned, thousands of complaints, calls from people looking for financial assistance, hoping to get the water back on. And if they can't get the water back on, DHS wants them to know they're there to help. Water. In Detroit, the battle for it now taking center stage. Some questioning whether the water department's going too far by cutting service to those who don't pay up.
Nothing. Buying, David Copperfield magically giving me $5,000. There's no way I can pay it.
Nicole Hill's home is without water, cut off by the water department as she contests a $5,700 balance. She receives donated bottled water, but she was so concerned DHS would learn her children are without that her kids are now staying with another family member.
What kind of government would allow its people to live without water? What kind of people are we?
Tonight, the defenders learning DHS is watching this situation very closely. A spokesperson telling us, we've recently received a large number of requests from people seeking financial assistance to help pay their water bills. We are working to process those requests as quickly as possible. We are also hearing from citizens concerned about children living in conditions without water, and we are investigating these cases. But no running water doesn't necessarily mean children will be removed from the home. The statement continues, Michigan law says child neglect occurs through negligent treatment, including failure to provide water. However, parents may still meet that requirement even if their home's water is shut off through bottled water or obtaining water at the home of a relative. And DHS says they are working tomorrow to get more information out regarding how they can try to help those who are without water. One thing you can do, you can dial 211. That will lead you to one of their phone lines. You can also go to the DHS website, and there you can apply for help. We're live here tonight downtown. Hank Winchester, back to you.
Hank, is the water department reacting to the controversy at all tonight?
Yeah, Karen, they are, and the water department's stance is right now they are still continuing to move forward shutting water off, but they have made it very clear if you want to work out some sort of a deal, if you want to make a partial payment, they are willing to work with you. You can either do that right down here on Randolph Street downtown, or you can call the water department directly. Back to you.
All right, Hank Winchester reporting live for us tonight in downtown Detroit.
Now the debate that's been putting Detroit in the national spotlight, Detroiters getting their water shut off because of unpaid bills. Now we're learning there is a fund to help those who are behind on their payments. The Detroit Residential Water Assistance Program was unveiled today as $1 million to help customers. Those who qualify can get up to $1,500 toward their next bill. State Department of Human Services also has a financial assistance program to help with bills. And for more information on that, you'll find the story on the homepage of clickondetroit.com. Other news tonight. It is a simple yes or no vote, but not so simple, of course. The city of Detroit's entire future resting on the results.
And the ballots for the city's plan of adjustment are being counted, and sources tell Local 4 so far retirees are overwhelmingly approving it. Let's go out to Steve Garagiola for the latest on this. So does this mean the hard part's over, Steve?
Well, there's no question there is still an awful lot of hard work ahead in this project, but I think we can say this. If the vote is yes, that is most certainly good news for the DIA, and it most certainly means the journey out of bankruptcy is a lot less complicated. Sources tell us that the city's debt-cutting plan of adjustment will be approved by Detroit retirees. More than 32,000 former and current city employees were eligible to vote on the deal. The plan would limit the pension cuts and protect the Detroit Institute of Arts from creditors. There have been strong indications of support from two classes of Detroit pensioners, police and fire, and civilian retirees. But nothing is official until the votes are counted and certified. If the vote is yes, the city will accept $195 million in cash from the state, $466 million in pledges from nonprofit foundations and the Detroit Institute of Arts. And the bargain would protect the DIA from the threat of a forced sale. If the vote is no, the city may pursue significant pension cuts and consider pursuing a forced sale of DIA art. According to emergency manager Kevin Orr, who released a statement tonight, the city must first tabulate and check the results of the vote. Then the city's vote administrator will prepare an affidavit for the bankruptcy court. That affidavit will be filed and made public on July 21st. The results of the vote will have a strong impact on the trial next month, where U.S. Bankruptcy Judge Stephen Rhodes will decide if the bankruptcy restructuring plan is fair, legal, and feasible. So again, what we're hearing tonight is that it looks like the vote is yes, and by an overwhelming margin yes, but that is not confirmed. That number won't be confirmed until the city makes it official, and that'll be on July 21st. But it looks like a big step toward moving through this bankruptcy process is happening tonight. Reporting live in Detroit, I'm Steve Garagiola on Local 4.
All right, Steve, been an extraordinary pace to it lately. Well, if we got outdoor...
Time to let it with us tonight. She's a part-time politician, but a full-time social activist. Elena Herrada was one of more than a half dozen people arrested for protesting the water shutoffs in Detroit. And if necessary, she says she will do it all again. Next to her, a man of peace who says he is ready to fight for those who simply can't afford to pay. Reverend David Bullock believes that clean water is a human right. But then there's Karen Dumas, a woman who's worked at the very top levels of Detroit City Hall under two mayors. She sympathizes with the poor, but she also warns us all that nothing is free. And certainly not legal advice. As always, Attorney Charlie Langton is here to ignite the debate. And later we'll discuss the pay raise given to the mayor and city council by a city that is broke. But right now we're going to wade in the water. Elena, you were hauled off in handcuffs today for protesting the Detroit Water Shutoffs. Why were you willing to put your freedom on the line?
Well, actually, we're very concerned about the water shutoffs as a major violation of human rights. So in order for us to be able to stop the things that are going on, we have to really step in front of it. That was why the group that gathered agreed to get arrested.
And you were out in front of the company that's been assigned to turn off water to homeowners.
The Hamrick is going out and turning off people's water.
What did the police tell you? What was the charge?
Disturbing the peace, of which there is none. But I also wanted to add that, like, for example, last night while we were in our meeting, I received a call from a neighbor in southwest Detroit whose water was turned off. She had paid her bill $150 extra. She had paid in advance. So when they came to turn it off, she showed them the bill, and of course they can't do anything about it. So she went in the house, got on the phone, stayed on the phone for an hour and a half, was unable to reach anybody. So she took it down, and they can find no record of it.
But, Reverend, now, I know you sympathize and empathize with the poor, but I assume you pay your light bill, you pay your phone bill, because you know that if you don't, those services will be cut off. Why should we treat water any differently?
Well, I think the question is, what do you do when someone does not have the means to pay their bill, but they have children, have to make formula for the baby, seniors have to take their medicine, have to be clean, you shut the water off, they don't have means, something must be done. Let's remember, when this program was rolled out, say late March, early April, they were talking about 3,000 shutoffs a week. Got the attention of the international community. The United Nations say, hey, Detroit is not a third world nation. What's going on in the city of Detroit? Now, we really know what this is about, Huel. This isn't about making people pay their bills. This is about trying to show that the system can collect so that it can be sold to a company and be privatized. This is Kevin or Governor Rick Snyder's grand play to make the water department look like a golden goose. But if they can't collect from Illich, because you can't bully rich people, they will collect from the poor because it's easy to bully the poor. And that's what this is about.
Karen, it said that this controversy is new, but the problem has been going on for many years.
Yeah, the problem has been going on for years, Huel. And the reality is that, we live in a society where things that we should be entitled to are not free. We're not in a third world country. And the reality is that we are charged for things. We're charged for water. We're charged, for electricity and heat. But there has to be a safeguard for those people who are unable. If you don't have your job, you get unemployment. If you can't buy food, you get food stamps. If you can't afford housing, you get Section 8. What if you can't afford to pay your water bill? Everyone who does not pay their bill is not doing so because they just don't want to. But we do need a system that's operationally efficient and accurate. As Elena pointed out, there are a lot of people who are penalized unjustifiably. So we've got some internal and external things that have to be addressed.
And Charlie, legally, if you don't pay your bill, you have no rights in court.
If you don't pay your bill, you get your water shut off. It's as simple as that. Now, first of all, they don't just go out and shut water off. They send you a notice that you are delinquent in your bill. Now, does the city make mistakes? Maybe they do. But when you get your bill, you got to do something about it. And if you go to the city, there are programs there that will help the people.
Is Ford Field's water shut off, Charlie?
They just put $1 million.
Is Joe Louis Arena's water shut off? What about Palmer Park?
Shut them off.
How come their water's not being shut off?
If you don't pay if you don't pay your water bill, shut it off. Joe Louis Arena, Cobo Hall, shut them all off if they don't pay the water bill. But then what are you going to do? The city is trying to get the attention of people that don't pay. Right around 50% of the people are not paying their bills. That's not right. And you know what? The city does need that revenue. And you know what? The water department is an asset to the city. Reverend was out there protesting to keep the water because it's such a valuable asset of Detroit. But if no one's paying the water bills, it's no good. Pay the water bill.
But is everybody being treated fairly? What about Ford Field and Joe Louis Arena? What about the state of Michigan?
That has to be consistent, and that's part of that efficiency. If you're going to collect, you've got to collect from everybody, not just the residents of the city. There are other municipalities, the state. There are businesses large and small. So you've got to be consistent.
But small businesses are also complaining that they are being targeted too. We're talking about auto repair shops, a cemetery, a golf course. Now, they owe a lot of money, maybe $10,000, maybe $15,000, but they say that their water bills are sometimes higher than their property taxes.
But why did they, when they rolled this program out, they targeted people who owed $150 or less?
Why not maybe?
I mean, why? No, when this program was rolled out, they targeted the most vulnerable first. There's something very, very wrong about that. There is a moral failing there. I mean, how do you roll a program out and you know you have large bills, some bills tied to vacant lots, some bills tied to corporations, some bills tied to the state of Michigan. The state of Michigan says, hey, we don't have a $4.8 million water bill, and they can hide behind the Teflon legal wall. But if I'm a poor resident of the city of Detroit, I don't have the same kind of privilege, I don't have the same kind of protection, and so we go after them. There's something wrong with that.
And let me tell our viewers that we did invite representatives from the city water department to come to Let It Rip tonight. They declined, but they did also say this. They wanted the viewers to know that there are programs available. You can go to the water department. You can work out a payment plan. If you know you owe a lot of money as a homeowner, you can talk with them. You don't have to pay it all at once. That if you talk to them, together they can work out a way so that you can keep your water service and pay your bills too. That's what I'm doing.
But that is not what people are experiencing at the water centers where they have to go and pay. They're experiencing the contractor coming out, turning off the water when they have not received a water shutoff notice, have not been told that they were delinquent. They might be $80, $90 delinquent. I get these calls all the time. I receive these calls because I'm an activist in my neighborhood. So I get calls from somebody who says, a lady on Central, 85 years old, got her water cut off. The neighbor calls and says this. They're telling places like Les said, they're telling places that these people are getting their water cut off that never have been behind in their bill. They're targeting random areas.
So how delinquent do you have to be before you would agree that the water should be shut off? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months?
I think that depends on the income of the people.
So if you're poor, you never have a water shut off, ever. They get poor people in Detroit should get free water.
If you do not have the means, there needs to be an appropriate rollout of a program that takes into account the particular situation of the customer. What we're saying, don't do that. No, what we're saying is that this particular program was rolled out in a way that did not take into account the situations of customers, and it just blanketly cut customers in the city of Detroit off. And so now what do you do when you cut a family off? A family comes home, the water's cut off. I have children. What do I do?
Let me tell you, many of those customers went right to the water department and paid their bill.
Some
and that happens as well.
But what does that mean when you came up with the money? This really is like, we did get a confession out of the person we tortured. That you did come up with the money to pay your water bill. But what didn't get paid when you paid that water bill? And now who do you owe? What else do you owe? And this is considered to be a successful plan.
I've been told
this is austerity.
Most of the time when the people get the notice, they pay. But most of the time when the people's waters are shut off, they go in, they pay the bill, done. That gets their attention. There are too many people.
Now, who told you that? Because the last time I was there, we talked to somebody who was there. Right, and they did not get a notice. Their water was shut off, and they were going down. Did not have the total amount of the bill, and had a hard time negotiating the so-called.
You really think the city is intentionally trying to shut off water?
Yes. Of course you won't buy it because you've never been poor. You don't know what it's like. People are targeting the most vulnerable, and there's something wrong with it.
Karen, you've worked at City Hall. What is really going on?
Well, I can't say what's going on now. I do think that it's a good thing that, the city is trying to go after monies that it is owed. But I will say, just like for parking, now you've got a $45 parking ticket, but your meters don't work. If you're going to do this, if you're going to enforce it, you've got to have your internal operations efficient and you have to have them accurate. One thing is that you can replace resident on the bill with someone's name. There's no accountability there in terms of who's liable or responsible. Maybe that's the opportunity to determine if in fact they are capable of paying the bill or having someone co-sign for them to ensure that they are.
And I'm told that there's $1 million fund ready and able to help people who need financial assistance.
But you also have to communicate it in a way where the people you're trying to reach will understand it. We have a 50% illiteracy rate in the city, and not everybody reads the news in the free press. So you've got to be able to get the message to the masses.
There's no reason intelligent, concerned people can't get in a room and figure this out. Maybe, Elena, you need to sit down with Daryl Latimer and the Detroit Water Department so together you can work out some plan.
Reverend, that's right. But we told them they should have talked to us first.
Well, it's not too late.